As he approaches his 100th day in office, Malaysian Prime Minister Mahathir Mohamad has embarked on an official visit to China. The 93-year-old leader has repeatedly criticised Chinese ventures in Malaysia for being too expensive and not supporting its workers. Soon after he became Prime Minister, he suspended 3 China-backed projects, 2 gas pipelines and a rail link worth around $22 billion.
We don't think they are viable. So if we can, we would like to just drop the projects. But if that cannot be done, we'll have to postpone it to the future where perhaps the need will arise.
The Malaysian leader doesn't want to take on too much Chinese debt, and he's also looking to diversify foreign direct investment. Mahathir accused his predecessor, Najib Razak, of selling off the country to Chinese interests in exchange for Beijing's help in settling debts linked to the scandal-ridden state fund 1MDB. But with national debt at $250 billion, Mahathir's coalition government must find other sources of revenue, especially after the leader scrapped an unpopular 6% goods and services tax and reintroduced some fuel subsidies. To make matters worse, Malaysia's economy has just posted its slowest GDP growth since 2016, 4.5% in the second quarter, as the country's mining and agriculture sectors contracted. If Mahathir hopes to boost that growth, renegotiating the terms with the Chinese will be key. Auskar Surbakti, TRT World.
And TRT World's Auskar Surbakti is with us in the studio. Hey there, Auskar. These are quite interesting times for Malaysia, aren't they? I mean, it is a small economy in the grand scheme of things, but it is strategically located. But how badly does Malaysia need China right now?
At the moment, I think Malaysia really does need Chinese investment. I mean, it has been Malaysia's top trading partner. It's the second biggest destination for Malaysian exports after Singapore. And with the latest GDP figures that have just come in, as I mentioned earlier, 4.5% in the second quarter, down around 1% from the same time last year. I think it is a bit of a wake-up call for Mahathir in terms of Malaysia's economy. And you have to understand, as I'm sure you're aware, Mahathir campaigned heavily on very populist ideas, which largely got him elected, and a couple of those promises included scrapping the unpopular 6% goods and services tax that was introduced by Najib Razak. It also included reintroducing some fuel subsidies, which were removed by Najib Razak as well in order to shore up the balance sheet. And so now there is this black hole that needs to be filled. Now, Chinese investment to a lot of countries, including Malaysia, is a quick source of money. But he did promise on the campaign trail to I guess, scale back on these investments for fear of getting into too much debt with China. But as we've seen from the latest GDP figures, I think he needs to find a new source of revenue in order to, I guess, boost the balance sheet.
When you look broadly, though, Mahathir does have some reason to be wary of China, doesn't he?
He does, and it's this thing called that some economists have nicknamed the debt trap that China has, I guess, implemented or imposed on several countries that it's started infrastructure projects with. One of them is Sri Lanka. Neighbouring Sri Lanka has just handed over control of a port, a key strategic port, to China because it is in such debt with Beijing. Another country in Africa, Djibouti.
This is the Hambantota port.
That's right, yeah. And it's created, I guess, stirred a lot of controversy, not only in Sri Lanka, but in the United States as well, with the US growing increasingly concerned with China's control in the region. Djibouti is looking set to do something similar with one of its ports amid rising debt levels with China. And analysts say that China has been smart in striking these rather opaque deals surrounding infrastructure projects with various countries. Again, a quick source of revenue, but if these countries are finding it hard to pay, they might have to cede control of some of these key ports or other infrastructure type projects.
I mean, we talk a lot about sort of the new mercantilism of the US, but this is a good example of how China is kind of doing something similar but in its own way. Meanwhile, a Malaysian investigation into the state fund 1MDB is due to reopen. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yes, I guess as Mahathir again campaigned heavily on bringing Najib Razak and his former government to account over this 1MDB scandal. 1MDB, just I guess to remind people, is this troubled state fund that was supposed to turn Kuala Lumpur into a major economic hub as well as kickstart a lot of development projects across Malaysia. But instead, there are accusations about embezzlement. In fact, it's currently around $11 billion in debt, and apparently, this parliamentary committee that's just reopened this investigation has found around $4 billion worth of unaccounted transactions about this fund. Now, it's in line with what Mahathir has ordered his agencies to do. The Anti-Corruption Agency has reopened its investigation. The police department has done something similar as well. So it's all about bringing Najib Razak to account. And as you know, the former Prime Minister is himself facing corruption charges as well. So this is likely to be a drawn-out process as these investigations are reopened. They were shuttled under Najib Razak's government, but now I guess we're seeing all these probes really come to the surface again.
OK, we're going to have to leave it there. Auskar Surbakti, thank you very much indeed.